All right, welcome to the Good Leader Podcast. I'm your host, John Martinez, and I'm with my co-host, Dr. Dave motherfucking Miller.
I like that emphasis.
Yeah, your
It's a
name's
good
getting longer
exclamation point.
and longer. And also, we got our producer, EZF Media, Miguel, the the podcast producer, or Paso. That's what they've been calling him.
Really?
Yep,
I
Triple P.
heard they called him a mangler.
And today our topic, we're gonna talk about the look in their eyes, and basically the whole concept of our podcast today, or the topic today, was this guy. He lost his fight. He was an MMA fighter, and the news reporter, instead of kind of like asking questions about how he felt about losing, basically referred to helping him, kind of like picking his spirit back up, I guess that was. And so it was kind of a good moment, and kind of how do men deal with taking losses and disappointment. And that's going to be the topic of our podcast today. So we go, you can throw the intro right there. What do you think with stuff like that, Dave? I guess that kind of brought to me the question: do guys feel more? I think for us, we feel like, okay, yeah, sometimes things don't go our way, and we're used to that. But I think you feel different when you feel maybe you disappointed people, or hey, maybe they're counting on me, or my team was counting on me, or his girl was someone was counting on him. Because I think that hits you a little bit more, that disappointment part. And how do guys deal with that in a positive way, where they don't dwell on it too much? And what can people do to help someone who's maybe going through that? Because not what she did was good, but I know, like, not everyone is like that. Some people you can't necessarily, you can tell them, but they don't necessarily are not going to always respond that way.
Well, there are those different types of defeat. There's the ones where you'd have, like, you maybe let yourself down or something like that. But I think one of the things that can affect me the most on a personal level is when I feel like I've let somebody else down.
Yeah.
Someone that's like I have like an obligation to, or in some sort of way, to give them my best. Or, if I foul something up, and then it's like, yeah, it's a hit,
Yeah.
but it's another type of thing where you've got to figure out a way to charge forward, and you can't just get, bogged down in that sort of quicksand.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a good point too. Is like, I think the moving forward is a part that a lot of people will miss, because I think they get too caught up in like the loss and kind of dwelling on it. And it could be a loss, could be anything. It could be like something just didn't go your way, and now you have to kind of think about what to do. And I guess it goes back to like, how do you think, for most men, are we taught, are we taught at all to like how to deal with that stuff? I feel like these conversations that we have, even though they seem like they would be normal conversations for people, I don't think people are really taught that a lot. I don't think anyone's, dad is saying, pulls them aside and says, hey, when you disappoint people, this is how it's gonna feel. Yeah. I think for a lot of times it's almost like, unless it comes up naturally, you may not even have that conversation. I don't remember ever having that conversation with any other man. Like, hey, well, when something doesn't go your way, this is how it's gonna be.
I mean, I guess it can manifest in like a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I can always flash back, growing up with my dad. I
Yeah.
mean, the conversation always went like, "Quit being a pussy," and it's like, all right, I guess
Like, that's some sound advice.
never more a pussy shall I be, So, yeah, I mean, sometimes it could be just that simple. But
Yeah.
I think there is like a lot of a habit these days in, like, you say, raising young men, where it's like people do allow a lot of wallowing in your feelings,
Yeah.
rather than a constructive way of channeling them,
Yeah.
you know.
I think a positive way to deal with that too is maybe, if you have friends, people like that, like, hey, here's your chance to like vent or say what you got to say, but after that, we need to move forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think a lot of people, if they limited their amounts of venting,
Yeah.
and said, hey, let's go to lunch, say what you got to say, get it off your chest. You know what I mean? About whatever it be, your relationship, your business venture, your friend, whatever happened to you. And then at that point be like, okay, but when we're done with this, we need to move forward. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're not going to just forget about it after that. But I think it's maybe having those good habits in place of saying, we're not going to continue to dwell on this. And I think that's where I kind of went with the whole conversation that the girl was having with the guy, because you see it on guys and you see it on girls, where you could tell when they're talking about things like, it's like, who hurt you?
Right, right,
Where it's a continued open wound and they never close it, because there is no moving forward for
right.
them. It's going to be like, 5 years ago this happened to me, and now I still gotta, like, and it's like, well, you don't sound like you're healed from it. You sound like you're just now shifting it to like give you the energy for new topics of discussion of how this, hurt you.
Well, now in so many ways, there's like actually like social capital in like, in having like a pity party.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So all feel bad for me because, this happened, or, this is, I'm the victim, and so you can't expect like a lot out of it. Oh yeah, you're right. Just sit there. We'll handle everything for you. We'll write all the checks and all that. So it's in this world of just continual therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a good thing. There's a good point to having a release of letting something out.
Yeah.
But it needs to be directed into, well, now what's next?
Yeah, what's
rather than it's like, oh, sure, yeah, just continually just let it out, and hold on to it, because this is defining you, and it's, no, it should more be shaping the direction you go rather than defining you permanently.
Yeah, is it motivation, or now are you using it as a weight? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now it's become, instead of fuel for whatever you're trying to do, it's like now you're just kind of holding on to. It's become a passenger in your,
Right.
in your car of life.
Right.
Some of the things I put that men silently carry about is like failed relationships, financial pressure, guilt, stress, feeling behind in life, feeling like a disappointed family, and sometimes and that men don't really need fixing. I think sometimes it's the, how do you deal with those different aspects, and how do you deal with things that can't necessarily be just overcome by strength. And I think for me and you talk about the gym in that sense, where it's like that's just one facet of being a man, like working out. It should not be your whole being of, this is just, I can just bench press my way through life, and that's gonna
Right.
and that's gonna fix all my problems.
Right. So, well, it does. I mean, that sort of aspect does kind of relate to just like, hey, life's going to offer you challenges, all the time, take on challenges that you choose. Choose to do some hard things, because, once you're able to do that, then you're able to handle the things that you don't expect, at least like a lot easier.
Yeah.
I hate to flash back, right? I mean, it's like, when it came to, the situation with my fiance after she died, I mean, the thing was, it was just habit, and like I said, I think I mentioned it was somewhat sheer spite, it's just like, well, if anything else you'll be taking, you're going to have to like fight me for it, even though I didn't really have like a purpose for doing anything. It was just still, I mean, I could hear it, from like my dad, from all that sort of stuff, it'd be like, hey, yeah, it sucks. You still have to get your ass up and move, and it's like, all right, fine. I hate it, but let's go.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but there's a direction.
And I think that's what it is. Sometimes it's like trying to find the I guess I don't say if it's the energy, but to continue to move even when you don't even know now what you're moving towards.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of people kind of I want to say they kind of fall short it sometimes there, because now all of a sudden it's like, well, if I'm not going to get this and this, why am I going to continue to move? But the thing is, you don't really know what you're going to get, but you still have to continue to move, because you're never going to get anything if you continue to stay where you're at. And that's why I think where it becomes almost a more of a faith kind of thing. That's why kind of when people say they don't believe in anything, it kind of is weird to me, because if you're just basing everything off your soul, your motivation, and those people tend to me to be like the weakest people, because if you're basing everything off logic, not everything's going to be logical. You know what I mean? It's going to be like, why is this happening to me? Find the, like you said, your fiance thing. What logic did that have to happen to you other than another person? There is probably, sometimes there's messed up things happen in life and there is no rhyme or reason for it. You know what I mean? And I think the more you try to find it, the more it becomes more probably frustrating. I would assume. I don't know if it became like, let me find a reason for why this happened. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's a portion of it where it's like, I just kind of, there is no fucking reason.
Yeah.
But, then that pissed me off.
Yeah.
And so, but it was like at that sort of level, that anger was actually like a motivation.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a bit, fuck it. You know, it's like, oh, sorry, I'm gonna, you know, it's the fundamental flaw in thinking would be to, you know, get hit with something like that, and just go, up, life's over.
Yeah.
You know, and the flaw lies in it's like, well, you still woke up this morning.
Yeah.
Obviously, life isn't over. You're
Yeah.
still here.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, unless you're just gonna freaking eat a bullet,
Yeah.
you know, and that's just giving up.
Yeah.
You know, you got to do something. You know, but yeah, I guess like the only motivation I had was just, yeah, I fucking hated it. But it's like, you know, if you take anything else, you know, you want to take anything else away from me, you're gonna have to fight me for it.
And I posted another video where it had a guy where he was on a bridge and he was about to like jump and the cops talking to him. And then he ends up, kind of bringing him back down. The guy just basically said he wanted a hug and that was it. And I think a lot of that comes from sometimes people just not, I don't know if it's not being heard or it's them not knowing how to deal with their emotions. And I think sometimes guys were kind of taught like, hey, you're supposed to be kind of, not emotionless, but you have to learn to control your emotions. And some guys, I think, take that to the extreme of where it's like, that doesn't mean you shouldn't tell anyone how you're feeling. They also shouldn't be, like you said, just whining all the time. There's like a fine line between both. Us saying like, okay, I have a lot of stuff on my mind or my heart that I need to like get off and I need to tell someone, or just keeping everything inside to you basically implode
Right.
and dealing with that in that way, right? And then and a lot of times what comes back, what I think people don't see when those situations is, and watching that video, it reminded me, of a lot of the suicides that I went to, where you have really nothing to do with this person, but you can be impacted by what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, because in that situation, the guy came down and it was fine. It's like, okay, I stopped it. A lot of times it don't work out like that. You know what I mean? And I've been there when it doesn't work out like that. And there's always, what people don't realize, there's always a sense of like, well, this, should I have done more? Could I have said something different? So now you're kind of doing what they talk about in this book called Resilience. I got to remember the name of the author, but it's a Navy SEAL guy, and he basically says, they kind of take their pain, they kind of just give it to everyone, right? Even strangers, you don't realize you're doing it, but you are, because what some people, I've seen people where they take it and they feel guilty. You know what I mean? Like, I think me myself, I was always able to like, hey, I was here for a reason. This is what I'm supposed to do. I did my best, but you don't always see that sometimes from younger people or some people where they're like, why couldn't I have stopped that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they go into those type of jobs or positions, or maybe step into those situations hoping for the best, and sometimes when it doesn't work out for the best, now all that person did was give their negativity now to this person. You know what I mean? And so now this person is not only carrying their regular life, but now they're carrying with this other. I think people don't realize that it's like at some point it's like domino effect.
Yeah.
And now you have to say, well, where does the domino stop?
Right.
Who stops it? And I think that's where it comes down to what we talk about, like being, having faith, being strong, being mentally like aware of how you feel. And because I think we kind of say, well, we're where the domino stops. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it sucks for us just like anyone else, but we learn to deal with it different. I mean, look at your backstory, look at some of the thing you went through. I mean, I don't see how anyone could say like, oh, well, he can't tell me how bad my life is. I and that's where I look at. To me that even finds I find like, hey, that that's good. That's where people, you pull strength from, things like that. You know what I mean?
Well, admittedly, though, I mean, it was another kind of bad position I kind of put myself in through all that. You know, was like, the whole thought of how bad everything was. I mean, was centered around me and my situation.
Yeah.
You know, when in reality, freaking millions of people have it way worse.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think you related a story. What was the one guy? You know, it's like his whole family died in a car accident. Freaking, one day. It's like just in a moment. You know, everything he loves, just gone. You know, multiple people. You know, and it's like, man, I didn't have it that bad.
Yeah, it's like
perspective. But it's like, it's even at that, it's not really a comparison of how bad, but it's like, I'll say, look, there's a lot of people out there going through some shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about you, you know? So, I mean, whether you have like an outlet or not, I mean, being raised male, I mean, you can admit that it is like a traditional sort of aspect, to be taught. It's like, yeah, you have to like control your emotions and all that sort of stuff. What you're not taught anymore is how to channel. when you do have them, because it's not a factor of just being emotionless. You're supposed to feel your emotions, you know, and but you need an outlet for them. You need a direction to channel it.
Yeah.
It is, you know, taught traditionally, you know, it's unacceptable for you to just fall apart and just be useless.
Yeah.
You know, just fall on the ground, kick your feet up, you know,
Yeah.
bawl like a, you know, a little girl or something, like, you know, for lack of a better way of putting it. You still got to be on your feet. You
Yeah.
still got things to do. You got responsibilities to take care of. You got responsibilities to other people, you know, that you have to fulfill.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's actually more of your purpose. It's less about you. It's more about others. And thanks to, you know, thanks to God, I mean, for whatever reason, that did manifest in a lot of my actions. Because if I was, you know, I'd get up and I'd go and I'd kick ass at work or something like that. I'd find things that I'd be doing for like other people, even if it was, there was some kind of self-serving aspects. I mean, it's like, I've always been like a bouncer, like on the side and stuff like that. And so it's just like, I found, you know, kind of some sort of fulfillment in like being, you know, when like say somebody's, you know, getting like the raw end of an asshole at a bar, you know, being able to freaking take that guy and bounce him off the concrete a couple times. And then of course, you know, there's the aspect it's like, man, I really need some asshole to come in here right now because I got to freaking release something, you know? And so there's, but it was still in a service, you know, it wasn't just like going out and just finding somebody on the street and just freaking, you know, knocking their teeth out.
Yeah, and I think it's like you said, it's like having the well, you learn to you're learning to regulate you like you said, you know how you feel, but it's also you're having still to maintain control of yourself. You know what I mean? And that's where I think a lot of when you see a lot of the young men and like there's so much like crime or people shooting people. To me, I feel like those are young men or women, whoever who don't know how to control their emotions. Like you know what I mean? It's a lot. It's like almost like if you even people that do anything bad, a lot of it is like I think there's two basic factors in that. It's usually they're selfish, you know, it's just about them, and they don't really care how they hurt other people's feelings or how they affect them. And I think that what drives a lot of people to do some of the negative things. Because when you look at the stuff like with a lot of the things like the UPS driver, or was it UPS or FedEx driver, just like with the kid, right?
He got sentenced to death.
Yeah, to death. Yeah. It's like, what else could be driving you besides that you wanted to, you know, gratify yourself and you didn't care who you hurt, even a little kid.
Somehow you had to find a victim.
Yeah, you had to find a victim. And that's where, you know, it comes down to like, those are like weak men because they have no control over themselves.
Right.
And then they're going to try to justify it to themselves. You know what I mean? And it's like, so because he even saw on that aspect when even knowing what he did, like, oh, well, who's going to spend Christmas with my kids? Like what? Like you just, you know what I mean? Like it's like that just shows a whole lack of like rationale, and that I think people that don't have control of their emotions, that what eventually kind of happens, they end up like lashing out in different ways. People that, you know, bully people, you know, beat on the, like you said, look for victims, you know, like peacocking. To me, like even that is a form of, to me, of like guys that walk around like trying to be super tough. Is like, it's not, it's kind of a emotion thing. It's like you look weak, you know what I mean? You're trying to look strong, but you don't look strong,
right?
You know, guys that know what's going on don't say, oh wow, that guy must be really tough, look at it, look how he's walking around.
Or it's also harder to actually even, you know, to maybe like control or channel properly your emotions when you don't even understand the nature of them in the first place. You know, and so a lot of that, you know, can be like a product of like, you know, say people being raised in like broken homes and stuff like that, you know, where you don't actually have, you know, role models or people who are actually really interested in investing time and raising you as you're growing up. You know, and you're just left to figure it out on your own. Well, that's, you know, almost a losing game every time.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of the reason, you know, for us, for the podcast and a lot of those stuff, for people that maybe don't have those role models or people having those conversations with them, to be like, oh, people are talking about this because, like you said, that maybe that's how they were taught growing up, or maybe they feel the need to posture because that's how they feel like that's the only way to maybe defend themselves. You know what I mean? It's like, well, if I look like this certain way, then, you know, people won't mess with me. And that's just kind of where it's like, but it doesn't really fix the underlying issue of whatever's going on with them, you know, beyond that. And so it's like you said, but it could go back to how they were raised and maybe just not being shown the right way. And a lot of men aren't, because there's so much different information getting pushed out. You know what I mean?
And so they just kind of like fall back on like a Neanderthal like
Yeah.
freaking
Yeah. Yeah,
instinctual sort of
basically.
behavior. Yeah, you know. So yeah, I can see that, you know, all the way through. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, and I think that's why some of the, the organizations people can join is like there's teams, people can join sports teams, there's churches, boxing gyms, military units, brotherhood circles, the gym, and that's why it's important for men to be around other men. It doesn't mean that you're gonna always have like, just a gang of men around you. You know what I mean? It's like but you need to find people that are like-minded and pointing you in the right direction. And I think, to me, like, one of the things that I noticed with myself, and I don't know if feel the same way, but I only listen to, positive people that are around me, or that are doing what I'm doing. Even music and podcasts, I do not listen to like negative doom and gloom. I can't even listen to that shit without getting a headache. Like, sometimes, if I put on something that's like very much, it just gives me a headache. I don't even want to hear it. Like, it's more like you're not saying anything, you're just complaining. I just move on with it. And I think a lot of people, they're so stuck in that cycle of they're listening to like emo music about how terrible life is. They're
Yeah.
listening to podcasts about how terrible life is. They feel like their life is terrible, their work sucks, and it's like, of course you feel negative. Of course you feel like your life sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if you're just constantly feeding yourself that, like, what positive thing are you doing? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So I think the thing that I steer away from is like anything that's got kind of like an undertone
Mhm.
of just coddling,
Mhm.
you know, and like, something just gone wrong or something. Oh, it's all right to feel sad. It's all,
Yeah.
you know, I tend to lean harder into like, the hard truth sort of things. Like say, yeah, you know what? You had a freaking bad day. This happens, all
Yeah.
this sort of stuff. You know, you get the tax man fucking coming to,
Yeah.
audit your ass and fucking what. So the fuck what? What are you gonna do? Get out and fucking do something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, sir, you can't just fucking barricade yourself in your fucking house now.
Yeah,
And just go. Oh, I just wanted to all just wish it away. You're gonna have to face it.
Yeah,
You
and that's
know,
what it is. I get what you're saying. I think the underlying message is like, hey, it sucks, but you're gonna have to face it sooner or later.
it kind of directs more towards like a path of like strength.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, so, yeah, you're gonna take a beating.
Yeah, it's gonna suck, yeah, but you gotta.
Welcome it, because that's actually gonna shape you a lot more.
What do you think about this quote? A lot of men aren't weak; they're just alone.
Uh, that's an interesting quote.
I know, like,
I,
that, like, quote, like, it kind of is like, I feel like there's some, like, a lot of truth to that, and a lot of, like, especially now, you know what I mean? Like,
I guess I mean, it would depend on what kind of situation you're really applying it to.
yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
in a way, I
like, if we took a kid, right, who said, maybe he said like a bad upbringing, but he was around, like, I don't want to bring up I know with the person in here, you know what I mean?
yeah.
But that kind of situation, right, where it's like, hey, you're putting them around people that are doing stuff. Does that? I kind of see how that wouldn't have at least some positive effect, right, around them. Where if they're not around any men or anything like that, and they're just on their own, then they're left to their own devices of what they think is like, well, working, or how to deal with emotions, right? Where it, like, that's kind of,
Or to just dodge dealing with them altogether.
yeah, yeah.
Like, let's take, for example, he who shall not be named
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
Is constantly in the freaking Moby mood. And
Yeah.
is always, well, nobody will ever understand what I'm going through. It's
Yeah.
like, you'll see, nobody will understand how tough my job is. Nobody knows how hard I got it. And all this
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Shut up. It's like, man, everybody's got it rough, man. Everybody gets hit by something. It's like, you're just giving yourself license to just wallow.
Yeah.
At that point, you're creating a situation where you are alone,
Yeah.
while also trying to make people feel sorry for you.
Yeah,
which then causes them to create distance from you. It's like, so I don't want to be around this energy.
It's like a self-fulfilling, like, prophecy.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but you're basically creating the isolation because you are pushing people away from you, even when they're trying to, like, pull you back. And that's where I think, like, in either the situations we talked about today, like the girl talking to the fighter,
Right.
and kind of pulling him and back because he was open to it. the guy on the bridge coming off the bridge from the cop because he was open to it. Like part of you has to be have a willingness to want to come back from that.
Yeah.
If you don't, then it doesn't matter. You know what I
Right.
mean? Your mind's already made up. And I don't want to go harping back on the whole like hurting yourself or anything like that. But I used to tell people that I said I've seen people that would say they're gonna do something as far as like self harm, and but they would call their mom or they would call someone and tell them those are people that literally wanted help. They wanted someone to they wanted attention. They wanted someone to stop whatever. People that really were serious about it, they didn't tell anyone. They just did it. Like they just found a way to do it and it'd be done.
Yeah.
You know, there was no stopping them. There was no going to be an attempt to stop them. There was nothing. It's so quick that they just could do it. And when you see people, how fast people can do it, when people really put their minds to like hurting themselves like that, you're just realizing like, man, that's someone who just made up their mind and they didn't really care. You know what I mean?
I think there's another sort of frame of thinking that ends up defeating like a lot of people is whereas they get into like a mode is where I want this pain taken away.
Yeah.
That can't
They
happen.
don't. Yeah, they don't want to. Yeah,
That's impossible. That can't happen. You're gonna get stuck. Wanting that. It will say, man, you're just gonna beat your head into the ground.
yeah,
And I what I've come to learn, through experiences, like I said, you know what, you don't want your pain taken away. You want to learn how to live with it.
yeah,
But having it there conditions you for further things that are gonna get thrown at you.
yeah,
It's like, oh, so yeah, well, look what I've already been through and what I've come out of. Yeah, this sucks.
yeah.
It's just the next thing.
It's kind of a point of reference for you of like, hey, this bad part happened in my life, and I'm gonna remember it because you can't. You have to remember it because if you don't remember it, or I don't think you have to, like you said, dwell on it. But if you acknowledge it, I don't want to say you can, and it'll make you stronger, like you said. But I think there's a strength to saying, hey, this happened to me, or experienced this. And instead of letting it like hold me down like an anchor, I'm gonna find some strength and some way to deal with that, right? And people like that. I think that's why when I saw the thing with the fighter and the reporter, if you look at a lot of the comments, human nature, when people see someone down, but then show like you see that little spark of like, hey, they want to come back. You know what I mean? Or that girl trying to lift them up. I think there's an inclination for people to want to be like, yeah, let's fucking go, because people can relate to that. They can relate to feeling down than getting up and being like, oh, I'm gonna do it, and that's where I think people like that. But but you have to be looking for those moments of I guess in human nature, just like people look for negativity.
Yeah.
And I think it's what you're looking for, you're gonna see.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that though, I mean, you can't ever like really isolate yourself because you're never going to know where that, that the hand pulling you from the ledge is going to come from.
Yeah, you're not going to have those conversations.
And that was an interesting read in that clip that you talk about. I mean, because you can see when she asked him about, well, how you going to come back, you saw in his face like, see, it's just a look of being lost. I don't know. And then she just starts throwing in, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do that. And he's like, oh yeah. Well, thanks. I needed that, And it's like you saw him start coming back to life. You saw,
yeah.
Because
essentially he was defeated, and then if you see, I didn't put it on the thing, but she had made a comment, and the best part of her comment, and this is where it talks about life experiences, and it talks about how, to me, I believe that like, God puts you in the path of certain people, and you're called to do certain things, but it's really on you to do them. Yeah. You either choose to do them or you don't. So part of the comment that she put about why she did that, she said that she had brothers, and she recognized that look from her brothers of feeling defeated. Yeah. And so when she saw someone feeling that way, instead of like taking that moment to be like, how does it feel to lose? You know what I mean? She decided to go the other way with it, which became the impactful moment, because that's someone who, recognizing like, hey, I've seen this look before with people that I care about. Let me do something about it. And then you think about that, like, well, that's kind of how life is. You know what I mean? Yeah. Something bad happens to you, you go through it. And then when you see it happening to someone else, do you then choose to say, well, fuck it, it's their turn, to let it happen to them? Or do you say, hey, you know what, I've been through this too, like let's go, you know what I mean? Let's get up, like let me help you, you know what I mean? But a lot of people don't do that because, like you said, society now is really based on being more selfish. I think I'm the main character, and all these things, which is, I think, just is going to lead people towards ultimately feeling disappointed, because you're not the main character. You're not going to always just be able to power through everything. and and it's not and people don't. I think even the term, the I want to say the hater term, right? I don't even like that term anymore, because I feel like a lot of times it's like, people don't really hate other people. They just don't like what they're doing. And I think when people dwell too much on like, oh, hey, like, I don't think everyone likes me and you. I'm pretty sure everyone's not like, oh, Dave and John are our favorite people, right?
Right.
But I think that they're haters. No, we just probably have different points of view. We
Yeah.
we we carry ourselves a certain way. They carry themselves a certain way. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you coexist, but I don't really, but I don't dwell on it. But I think when people start making up, enemies or situations, then it becomes, it's still, it's like lingering right there on whatever positive thing they're trying to do. You know what I mean? They got to sprinkle that negativity onto it to say, oh, why, yeah, people are secretly hating. I'm like, no.
They just insert themselves as being adversarial from like the
Yeah.
point, from the word go, and you're just like, I don't even want to deal with this shit.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, I didn't hate you before, but I don't like you now.
Yeah.
It's like, so I don't even want to talk to you.
But that can go back to, I think, maybe how people were raised. You know what I mean? Having
Yeah.
to believe that they have to have an adversary to go against, or that they can't just do it on their own accord. You know, like, I don't think I've ever really thought like that. And I think I think law enforcement helped me not think like that, because people didn't like us in general. So it's
Yeah.
not like you couldn't take it personal. I
Yeah.
never took it personal. It's just like, okay, yeah, people don't like us in general. They don't know me. I don't know them. It's just their opinion. Fuck them. You know?
Yeah. They hate you until they have to call you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
um what do you think is a good way today to kind of, I guess, end the podcast on, with that kind of note of those two types of things that we see going on with men, and with those two situations. But also, I wanted to give a lot of credit to the girl for doing that, because I see so many girls bash the shit out of men online on social. And there's times where sometimes I want to put, not even retracting back to them, like, it's just more funny to me. It's just like, it's almost like a mix of being like, why do you think so many men are bad? You know what I mean? Like, why is this? And I get it, but I see also a mix, right? Like, when I see guys that are doing things like the like kids, there's also a lot of women that are there when this is happening, right? You'll see stuff like, hey, the stepdad did this, but the mom of the kid she was there too. And you're like, okay, so why is that blame not being given to both, right? It's like, there's good and there's bad people. It's not a gender thing.
Yeah.
It's a good, people are good and bad. And the only way to me to like counter that is, one is like, for guys not to to be like that, but if they're aware of it, because I always have a hard time believing, especially with these kids that are neglected, or things that are going on that no one fucking knew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, someone has to know, like, hey, why is your daughter always in their diaper, and it's like, 10 o'clock at night, and she has no shoes on. Like, you have to kind of be aware. And I've seen people where they've called CPS. I've gone to CPS calls where the friends or neighbors, someone called because someone wanted us to know.
Yeah.
And someone wanted us to get involved, and it's because of things like that, because you have to take some sort of action.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you really know, something like that is, going on, I mean, you have to step in, especially if you see nobody else stepping in.
Yeah.
But there's a couple different routes, they tend to happen like these days. They tend to break down men, and you pointed out, yeah, you just bashing them, but then there's also giving them license to just
To be
curl
a
up
weenie.
in a fetal position and just feel sorry for themselves. That's almost just as bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you are just emasculating them at that point, and you could go down like the rabbit hole. I mean, I'm sure, you and I have like talked about it before. I mean, how a lot of our society has actually been structured to break down strong men.
Yeah.
Because strong men are not controllable.
Yeah. You don't, well, you can't, they, it takes a lot of, like you said, it's not only, I want to say, not only not controllable, but they're not just going to go with the flow of things because people are telling them to.
Yeah. They're not going to accept, wrong things just for the fact that, well, I don't want to, I don't want to break the status quo. The status quo fucking sucks. Somebody's going to have to stand up to this.
Yeah.
And I think actually, I saw a thing on my social media feed earlier today. It was back in like 1997 or something like that, a Las Vegas casino, like a
Oh, that's the one I posted.
so it was, where the guy just did nothing while his friend freaking assaulted and murdered a freaking
And
young
that
girl. And, you know, he's just like, it was just nothing I wanted to be a part of. And he walks off. It's like, dude, you're just as culpable.
the reason I posted that is because I've heard that I've seen in the comments sometimes where people were they're like something happens and I'll be like, this is why you don't get involved. And it's like, and the guy with his answer was basically, I guess to shorten up the story, the guy, it was like 2 a.m. at a casino. The dad was gambling.
Yeah.
For some reason, he had his daughter with him, who was like 9, believe she was 9 or 7. She goes to the restroom. The guy goes in to the restroom, and then the friend goes in. The guy starts basically assaulting the girl with one of the friends. The other friend is, I don't know what you can call it, whatever you want. It's a fucking coward, a pussy. That's whatever the only term for it.
Definitely not a man.
Yeah, sees it and just says, hey, I don't even think he said anything. I think he even said, well, my body language implied that he shouldn't do it.
Dude, bullshit.
Yeah, and then he walks out.
At that point, my body language is choking that motherfucker out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
well, not only that, right? He says he doesn't go get security, nothing, right? Say he feels like I can't overpower my friend, right? My friend's, you know, like maybe he's the fucking weenie of the group and he just can't do it. Dude, he can go get security. You could do something. I think the guy was in there with the little girl for almost like 26 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I see that with a lot of these guys where, well, like, oh, look at these grown men fighting, or look at this. And it's like, dude, you're a coward. At some point, you're going to have to like fight. And I'm not saying that you should go around fighting and I said, but you can't always have this attitude of like, oh, I'm too big for, no, you're a pussy, bro. Like, that's the only way to say it. And so that's why I posted it. And I want people to understand when I do reels, there's usually some deeper meaning behind the, I do it sometimes in a funny way, or like to make it look a certain, but there's reasons behind it, right? Like the guy, I posted up the security guard that stopped the active shooter in Las Vegas. And he was a kid. And one of the things that I wrote in there was like about, he could have just said, I'm a security guard. This is not my job. I'll wait for the police to come, but he didn't. And I said, that's what it takes for people to say, this is not just what I am. You know what I mean? You're capable of being much more than that. And that's why I think I posted in there, like, you know, I hope that kid gets some type of credit. He had some good skills of doing it. He should be a fucking cop. Like, he basically hit all the criteria. He stopped the shooter, pied the corner, kicked the weapon away, did it all. And I guarantee if he's just a regular security guard, is probably making, you know, $10-15 an hour, something. He didn't have to do all that, but he did it because that's what he was called to do.
And that makes like actually a good contrast with those two posts, you know, because it's like, so you got like a situation going down. It's like, you know, you step in and you can prevent the worst from happening.
Yeah.
You just go back off and just like hope for the best.
Yeah.
Then the worst happens.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You got to take the reins at some point.
Yeah. You got to take it. Yeah. And that's what, and then that is why I posted those two back to back. It's the same today why I posted the girl talking to the guy after the fight. And then the cop getting out. I try to, it's not just for no reason. I look for things to me that kind of, I guess, resonate with me as an emotional, because I want people to feel something. I don't like to be like, let me just put this because it's, you know, it looks retarded and I hope everyone clicks on it. I want it to have some like deeper meaning, because I feel like social media can be used for good, but a lot of it is just used for, you know, like how many, you know, ass shots can we see?
Right. but then that falls.
My girl's
back,
like, never enough.
That falls back to what I brought up, you know, earlier about this. You know, I'll lean into like the hard truth sort of things. I mean, it's just the type of things that, you know, you'll see, and you got to take a moment to look at yourself in the mirror. It's like, well, what would I, you know, do in that situation? I mean, would I actually, you know, put my ass on the line to try to stop, you know, the worst case scenario, or would I just, you know, turn a blind eye and hope for the best?
And well, not only that, what I try to tell people, and this is from training, I guess, from training and having to have trained people, you have to think about that stuff when it's not happening. Like, you literally have to think in your head, like, okay, well, if someone came into my house at night and I have to defend my family, what would I do if I was at the grocery store and so on? Like, you have to be committed to it before it ever happens. That's what we used to teach guys when they became cops. Like, you have to commit yourself to action before it ever happens. Because when it happens, now you have a point of reference to say, oh, I told myself I was going to do this, so I need to like do this. If you don't ever think like that, it's going to happen and you're not going to do anything. And I've met people that happens and the look in their face is disappointment in themselves.
Yeah.
Because they realize like, man, I could have done something different. and I would have probably felt good about it, but now I feel like I didn't do anything, and they carry that around with them. And then they start like, how do I do that? And I remember telling a guy that who didn't do something during a call, and he watched some of the other officers getting in fights, and he asked me like, what am I supposed to do? And I said, well, you're disappointed in yourself. So you're gonna have to prove to yourself that you're no longer going to be disappointed in yourself. And I said, I don't know it's going to take for that to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're gonna have to wait for another opportunity to like
Yeah.
something to happen, and then you do something.
Yeah.
Like that's basically what it kind of ends up becoming.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're going to always be like, fuck, this is how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And some guys are going to take that and say, I'm never going to let that happen again. And other people are going to be like, they're going to become more like, oh, fuck. You know?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Miguel? Any Miguel questions?
No, I guess my only question would be like, what advice would you have if you see somebody you kind of notice those traits of being like they look alone, like that fighter? Like, what would you say to them to like get them out of that mindset?
I think for myself, it's always little things like I think the knuckle bumps and kind of trying to interact with people. One of the big things, and it is just me, and I hate at the gym. I feel like if people are too into their phone and they're not paying attention or interacting with anyone, but at the same time, they just don't seem, I want to say happy, or you know what I mean, or like it's kind of like, well, it's like you said, you're never gonna have that conversation or meet that person that's gonna help you if you're just like balls deep with your face in the phone. You know what I mean? Like you kind of have to be open to it. That's what I would say. Like one is like I think, for guys that are not like that, you can make the attempt to like have a conversation with them,
Right.
or say like, hey, this is what we're doing, or what's up, man, hi, whatever, to let them be seen, right? But they also have to be open to it. You know what I mean? Because I've seen people where I've told them hi or this and that, and they never say nothing back. You run into them again, they never say anything. They also have to be willing to like say, okay, this person told me hi, so I'm gonna saying hi, and then you interact and you become friends or acquaintances. But if you're just constantly like in your bubble, you know what I mean? A lot of people are not gonna keep just reaching out to you until you decide, you know what I mean?
A lot of times, I mean, you can catch that vibe from somebody when they're just having like a hard time or something or whatever, the first, thing that you really can do is just try to break that ice.
Yeah.
Just kind of let it, hey, maybe, you need anything?
Yeah.
Let me know, man.
Yeah.
I'm here, all that sort of
I'm
stuff.
David, run this shit.
Unless like you actually come up with a guy, where it's like, I mean, he's actually there, with freaking, the barrel in his mouth.
Yeah.
Then it's like, you got to be a little bit more proactive, at that point. But no, I mean, a lot of, just kind of, you don't have to like, again, go into like a coddling mode.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'll say, hey, bro,
Yeah.
if you need anything, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to,
let me know.
It's not a pity thing. And I think sometimes when that's what it is, you can't approach someone with like, hey, I want to be your friend because I pity you. You know what I mean? It has to be out of legit, like, hey man, like you're working out, cool, good job on you. Or, you know what I mean? I see you here doing this, good job. And, I've been lucky enough I've been able to do that with, especially with guys that were, that came into like our department that were very, I would say not antisocial, just more to themselves, and watch them, prosper and grow, end up getting girlfriends. The guys that people would never like, oh, this was, a straight dork, and my friend, and one of the guys told me, he was like, well, you have a way of, if people are in your orbit, you want to bring them in. Cause that's how I feel. Like, I don't want you just to be orbiting around us. To me, I'm going to be like, well, if you're around, like, what do you do? Like, come be part of us, rather than be like, hey, just letting you orbit it, and then just making you feel like, why can't you just have a conversation and join us? You know what I mean? Because maybe they have something to offer. And I always feel those guys tend to be the most, the loyalist guys, the most loyal, because they're like, fuck, you didn't have to help me. Yeah, and you know what I mean? It comes down the road, but I think those guys remember stuff like that.
I think one of the things is kind of it work, and this may just be this environment.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the people I encounter coming in here, one of the things that's worked for me in like developing a relationship with people here is opening up myself first.
Yeah.
It's like I'll come in, be like a new member or something like that, and I'll tell us like, it's why I love this place.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so why is this therapeutic to me? What times was in like my day or like whatever, something's hitting hard or whatever. Where does this make the difference? And all that sort of, and you'll get people where it's like, all of a sudden they start relate, and then they'll start opening up themselves.
Yeah, because they see
You
it's
know?
not just like a fitness thing.
Yeah.
Like a fit. Like you're giving them more reasons than just like saying, "Hey, we just come here, we lift heavy shit."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're kind of saying like, "Hey, everyone's kind of if everyone's friendly, you're find some like-minded people.
Yeah.
We got people that are that will help you. We got the the challenges like you guys have the
Yeah.
Earth coming up. There's a Kegel class. For
Right.
girls.
Yes.
One of the last things I close, I got a question today from it was like in an email. It asked if we are a pro MAGA. But I was like a weird question. It was like through the website through goodleader.shop. Was like, are you guys a pro MAGA a brand? So the way I answered it, and I don't remember the exact wording was basically like we are our brand is with faith, family, discipline, accountability, masculinity, hard work, and responsibility,
And
like
common
yeah,
sense.
and common sense.
Let's just throw that
And
in there.
and I told him, I said, we're a pro LE, we're a military brand, so a lot of our values are going to lean conservative. And to me, this
Yeah.
is what I said, but that doesn't mean that we're just like we're just over here like just bashing you over the head with political. It has nothing to really do with that.
No.
I said, but yeah, does everything kind of lean that way for us? Yeah, but doesn't mean that if we don't agree with what you're saying that you can't be on the same page, because maybe there's something you can bring a value to what we're doing, and there's something that we can bring a value to what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you have to be open to it. It's just weird to me that that's the way people sometimes like view it about what like let's view our how we can interact through our political parties, when it's like, bro, what is this fucking the Bloods and the Crips? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like it's like, no, you can have differences of political opinion.
I see politics as more as the Jets and the Sharks from
Yeah.
fucking West Side Story.
West Side Story.
Yeah, dancing around with knives. La, 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 la. Yeah, that sort of thing.
And that'll be all our episode for today. We'll give our outros. Gain Station Gym for always letting us use the location.
Absolutely.
Easy Media for all your podcasts and portal needs.
There you go.
Support us at goodleader.shop. The Murph challenge is coming up on Memorial Day.
Monday the 25th.
Monday the 25th. You can sign up at it's on your Gain Station, right? It's on the link on Instagram.
Yeah, there should be a link on Instagram. We have like all sorts of QR codes posted all over the gym too, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And if anybody's interested, they could also email the gym. We'll send them a link to sign up.
Yep.
I am trying to get like a head count, because we are gonna have like a barbecue, so I need to know like how much.
Oh yeah, the food. Yeah.
How much food we're gonna order?
They said the barbecue is gonna consist of all wieners, no buns.
I was thinking about going the kebab route, man. So
What kind of barbecue
stand back.
is this?
I got a lot of skewers.
And yeah, support us. Yeah, like I said, like a goodleader.shop. Join the dangerous few, and that's what our brand is about. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and we're on all streaming platforms. Right, Miguel? Everything.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on everything. I think we're just not on Rumble, but Rumble's like YouTube, kind of basically. No one watches it, so it's a kind of.
We are in the important ones for sure.
Yeah, we're on the important ones. That's all that
Excellent.
matters.
All right.
Cool.